There is one cut of meat that's always been intimidating. I've seen it on videos, I've seen it in cookbooks, but I've never actually cooked it. And so, when I saw today's recipe, I knew I had to try it. Today on Caleb Eats, we are going to be making miso chili rubbed short ribs. This recipe is going to be coming, once again, from The Cook You Want to Be by Andy Baragandi. But, unlike a lot of his other recipes, this recipe requires a lot of trust. And the trust has nothing to do with the meat. We are going to be using flanken cut short ribs. Short ribs are going to come from the lower half of the abdominal long rib cage area. Typically, they're going to be cut with the bone. So you have a big chunk of meat, you'll have a bone sticking out. However, sometimes they are cut across the bones, and that's what we're using today. As you can see, we have 4 bones, and then we have all the meat. There is quite a lot of connective tissue. With short ribs, because they are in that lower rib cage, there's a lot of connective tissue. That's why traditionally short ribs are cooked for hours on end. These, because they're cut into thin little strips like this, cook much faster. These are after we marinate them, only going to cook for 2 to 4 minutes per side. To make this marinade, we're going to be using a blender. It's going to make it super easy to, blend all the ingredients up. First thing we're going to do is we have some serranos. We have 4 serranos. All right, so I'm going to be seeding my serranos because I don't like having too many seeds. I'm just going to, since we are going to blend this, I'm just going to roughly chop these just so that the blender doesn't have to do all the work. All right, then we have some garlic. I'm trying a new hack where this has been soaking for like 10 minutes in water. This soaking in water thing might have worked a little. It's coming off really easy. It's not too sticky. And because the skins are damp, they don't go anywhere. They're just there. Oh, this is perfect. So the next thing we need is some ginger. So if you've been with this channel for a while, you know that I like freezing my ginger. So we're just gonna start grating. With it nice and frozen like this, you just get this nice fine paste. We're gonna be using rice wine vinegar. We'll be doing 3 tablespoons of this. 1, 2, 3. And then we also are going to be using miso. Now, when you go to buy miso, you'll probably see 2 different types. You'll see light miso and dark miso. For this recipe, we want light miso. And really all the difference is just how long the soybeans have been fermented. Miso is a fermented product. You take soybeans, salt, and a koji culture. This is a very well-used culture, especially in Japanese cuisine. They use it to make soy sauce, sake, mirin, and miso. But really, the color is just how long it takes. Some misos are done in months. Other misos are much, much longer. And the longer it goes, the darker it is. So a light miso is going to be a little bit of a shorter fermentation period. Typically, it's going to have a sweeter flavor. The darker misos tend to be a lot more umami flavor, a lot more savory. 2 tablespoons of this. Oh yeah, miso trying to run away. 1/4 cup brown sugar. Packed. Gonna add some sweetness to our marinade. Final ingredient in our marinade is going to be some sesame oil. We're just doing a couple teaspoons of this. This is also going to add a little bit of more moisture. Here we go. Our marinade is done, so now we're going to get our meat all nice and lined out on this pan, and then we're going to let it marinate. We do a little bit of salt on these meat. Again, we're not doing a ton of salt because the miso in our marinade is going to provide a lot of that salt flavor, but we do want a little bit of salt. And then the recipe just says to pour this over top. We're going to use our tongs to make sure everything is covered. Look at the color on this marinade. I did not expect this. Mixy, mixy, mixy. Mix, flip it up, pull it down, flip it all around. All right, this meat now has to rest for 30 minutes. Let those flavors all incubate together and get all tasty. We're gonna do this in the fridge. Again, the reason we want to refrigerate it is just because if we are to leave that out at room temperature, that connective tissue is gonna get really soft and it's gonna, start falling apart. We don't want that. Next step, this is a step that requires lots of trust. We need to cook our rice. We're using a short grain rice. We need to cook our rice and not touch it. We just have to trust that it's cooked. But the first step is we have to rinse our rice. If you're not used to this step, really what happens is when rice is in a bag, when it's bouncing around with other rices, it sloughs off all this extra starch. And when you cook that rice, that starch becomes really sticky. If you don't rinse your rice is gonna get really sticky together, which, you know, if you want sticky rice, go for it. Go for this. I don't want sticky rice, no sticky rice. So we're gonna rinse our rice. We're gonna probably rinse it 3 or 4 times. All right, so we have our rinsed rice in here. I have my strainer from rinsing it. We don't need that anymore. And then to this, we're gonna add 2 cups of water. If you're using a white short grain rice, you do wanna use a little bit less water than what I'm using, probably a cup and a half. So this rice is gonna take probably the longest of anything else in this recipe. So we're really gonna time everything around that rice. Once that rice is gonna cook for about 20 minutes, we're gonna take it off the heat. We're gonna let it cook for another 10 minutes. Then we're gonna fluff it. We'll mix in some butter and some nori. I'm really excited to see what that tastes like. And then basically, once that 30-minute cook period is done, that's when I'll start on the meat. So one of the things we're gonna be eating this with is a scallion salad. So we're gonna chop these up, we're gonna make them all nice and ready. Then we're actually gonna do something really interesting with them that I'm really excited to see how it works. I almost did the wrong thing. There we go. Onions are done. My eyes definitely felt that. But now we get to do the step that's really interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a bunch of ice, a bunch of water in with these greens, and we're going to leave them for 10 minutes. What this, in theory, is going to do is it's going to take all these greens, all this onion, and the layers of onion will get saturated with water. They'll expand a little bit, and that should make them all curly. We'll see. We'll see what happens. There we go. We got that ice water in there. Now we're just gonna let it sit for 10 minutes. We'll see what happens. All right, so now that is cooling, we're gonna give our rice a stir. We're gonna give it a check. Oh, I see a couple bubbles. We ready for trust? This is when trust begins. We're gonna cover that for 20 minutes. We're gonna turn it to low. And we're gonna just leave it for 20 minutes. While we're letting those scallions rest, we're going to work on their salad dressing. We're going to be using the rice vinegar again, some toasted sesames, and some gochugaru Korean chili flakes. I've heard of this ingredient, never used it until today. I'm excited. It's just chili flakes. So I'm excited to see what it's like. It smells pretty good. It smells a little smoky, a little savory. Not quite the same smell as red chili flakes. This definitely has an extra dimension to it. To make this salad dressing, we'll be using 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, 2 teaspoons of this gochugaru. So 2 teaspoons of toasted sesame seeds, 2, and finally 1 teaspoon of sugar. We're basically just gonna make a paste. Like, that's just a paste. We're just making a flavorful paste that will then mix with our scallions. The final thing we have to do is just get the nori ready. So I have my nori. I have not bought this stuff ever. 1 sheet of nori. That's all we need. This is interesting because we have to get this into a powder. I'm gonna fold it a bunch of times. I'm gonna put it in my mortar and pestle, I think. He says to use a spice grinder. I now know why. No more mortar and pestling the crap out of this. All right, so let's put our crazy seaweed in here. Powderized seaweed, just what we want. So it's been about 10 minutes since we put those scallions in the ice water. So we are going to drain them. So the handy dandy colander. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if that did anything. They just look like normal scallions. I'm gonna pat this dry with my towel. Take a drop. Culinary instruments. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So now that these are all dried, we're going to push our paste in. Like so. Mix it all in. So now this is all made. I'm gonna try it. We're gonna first start with just this paste. We have a little bit left over. Got some good sweetness, some good spice. Pretty good stuff. You know, I don't even have to try this anymore. I was gonna try this to see what it's like. Eat this alone? Eat this with a spoon. Alright, it's the moment of truth. It's been 20 minutes. Now we're gonna take the rice off of the heat. Now we wait 10 minutes. You didn't think we'd be doing nothing while we waited for this rice, did you? We're gonna get the sauce that goes with the rice right here. Medium heat. So a stick of butter is usually in exactly 1/2. We need a 1/4 cup, so we're going to use half of this. And I'm going to cut it into 3 or 4 sections, just so that when we put it in the pan, it's going to melt a little faster. Put our butter in. All the butter in. Nice. Now that it's getting all bubbly like that, we are going to add our seaweed. If you're familiar with the idea of blooming spices, that's exactly what we're doing here. We are blooming this seaweed. Oh, and look at that color transformation. All right, we're gonna take, I think those are probably bloomed successfully. We're gonna take this off the heat. We have 1 minute left on the rice. All right, it's the moment of truth. Is the rice cooked? No! We might just have too much water. So I'm gonna test it, see if it's cooked. It looks cooked. Very cooked. So we're gonna drain out that extra water. So I would say that that has been sufficiently fluffed. Now we're gonna pour in our butter. Pour it in. Scrape all the good stuff in. Mix, 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 mix. Wow, that is a couple. And now final step. Cover it again for 10 minutes. All right, our meat has now been resting for over a half hour. It's time to cook it. So we're just gonna put these directly on the grill, like so. I would say this grill is at a high heat right now. I probably should not be going lengthwise. Going sideways. Last one. All right, that's a jumbled mess, but we're gonna let it cook for a couple minutes. It's been a couple minutes, so we're gonna now flip these over. Oh, look at those grill marks. All right, those are all flipped. All right, couple more minutes. Smoky, smoky, smoky. Perfect. Let's take a look at this one. Nice. I like what I'm seeing. I'm gonna flip that one over just to get a little bit more char on that side. More char. This one needs to be more cooked, just in general. This one looks good. Put it over here in the cold area. Honestly, probably all these ones are here. Woo! We got a big flare up. Nice. That looks good. Look at this. That looks delicious. All right, so we have all of our ingredients. We got buttery nori rice. We have our deliciously grilled, miso rubbed flank and short ribs. And then we have our scallion salad. I don't know what to call it, scallion salad. All that's left to do is try it. Let's take a little bit of meat. Ooh, look at that. Look at that cook. It's nice and pink. Makes me feel happy. Take some rice, get some of this salad. I'm gonna try some of the meat by itself. A little bit of heat, I wouldn't say it's like a knock your socks off heat. Just a little bit of sweetness. Here we go. We got meat. We got rice and the salad. It's all going in. That's actually, yeah, that's really good. You get the nice buttery fat from the rice. I definitely taste that nori. Nice crunch from the scallions. And then the meat, I mean, the short roast is delicious. All right, that's a wrap.